Thank you for joining us for the Google Workspace for Educational Technical Updates for September 2022. James is going to be running through the spreadsheet with the slide deck with us in a minute. There's also, I think, 3 key updates from the previous month. So over to you, James. Take it away.
Okay, just get my screen up. Okay, can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay, let's jump right in then. Okay, so the first one is Calendar User Availability API. It's coming to beta. So the basically what that allows you to do as an administrator, if you haven't signed up for the developer preview program, I'd recommend that you actually do that. And when Chris shares these slides out, you can click on the link here and sign up for this developer preview program, and that covers not just the calendar API, but it'll also cover all of the Google App APIs as well. So the calendar user availability is launching. Like I say, you can sign up and you can preview the documentation in advance. What that allows you to do as an admin, obviously, is to push out across your domain who's available, when. So that's useful for if you know staff, for example, if you've got HR and you know that the HR know that staff are out on certain days or aren't working on certain days, you can also use it for things like room booking and things like that. So as an admin, you can actually push out to the calendars for certain rooms or resources within your school or college, what's available. And so it's just an easy way to sort of like take control over the calendars. The next one, this has been announced quite a long time ago, as you're all probably aware, but Hangouts is now gone, it's dead. They're now fully moving that across to Google Chat. 1st of November is when it's going to start. Hangouts will no longer be available. So anyone that's still using Hangouts, and I'm not familiar with anyone who is still using Hangouts, will need to sort of like, it will redirect them to Google Chat on the web. But using, I mean, I know our team at C Learning, we use Google Chat on a daily basis, 24/7. It's a fantastic collaborative tool. You can create your spaces and, you know, communicate as a team with each other. If we've got a specific project on, we'll create a space for that, so that everything is sort of like controlled that way. So
yeah, it's just a quicker and easier way, really, isn't it, James?
Yeah,
it's one of those things where if you don't feel like the need to send an email as well, that then gets into a massive long thread of emails, it's just easier to have you done this, have you done that, where are we up to with this? We use it all the time. In fact, we've probably communicated 10 times this morning using chat, just with various bits and bats, haven't we, on updates? So it's
I mean, the advantage, like as Chris says, the advantage over email, if you're getting a lot of email, which you will normally get from other people, like clients of ours and customers of ours in schools, and we get emails from Google and all the rest of it, to kind of like keep it sort of like separate from team communications, we prefer to use chat. Because obviously Google aren't going to send us a chat message, they'll send us an email. So RIP Google Hangouts, it was good when it was first there, but chat is even better. Okay, this next section covers Meet hardware. I don't know whether anyone on the Meet actually has Meet hardware, but Meet hardware is specifically for things like conference rooms, things like that. Meeting rooms where you want to be able to sort of like have your own dedicated hardware in that room. The updates to this are a lot of schools use AppSpace for digital signage. So what you're able to do now, if you've got Meet hardware, is customize that digital signage through the AppSpace. I have to point out though that AppSpace is a paid for service. Okay, you have to pay for that. So what you can do is you can customize your signage to, say, have the school or the college's logo on there, should you wish. You've got updates to voice control on that. The other thing through AppSpace is you can register your Google Meet devices directly within AppSpace, but because it's a paid-for service, there may be additional charges for registering your Google Meet hardware on the AppSpace. They've created enhancements to Frame People. Frame People is a feature basically on the Google Meet hardware that basically allows it. You can basically select people who are frame people, so that it kind of like keeps it, you know, the way in certain meets you might not necessarily see the person who's actually speaking, but with frame people you will. And then the last thing is the dark canvas theme. That's on the home screen only. So if the Google Meet hardware isn't being used for, say, a meet, it can go into the dark canvas theme, which basically just, as it says, it's just a color palette within the screen.
James, what's the Google Meet hardware look like? What sort of, you know, what's involved?
Yeah, it's effective. The Google Meet hardware is effectively like a it's like a screen. So you've got like a screen, about a 10-inch screen,
right?
And effectively you have to have a Google Meet license to control it through the admin console. And what you can then do is you can, once you've enrolled into your admin console, then you can actually administer it through the admin console. So you can sort of like book a room out, you know, create a meet. Say you've got a governor's meeting, but someone's not able to attend, or you've got an outside speaker. They can actually join the meet through the Google Meet hardware.
Okay, because the reason I ask is we setting up, or we have set up a hybrid classroom. So we've got a normal classroom with a interactive screen in the front. Got a camera at the front. We got a camera at the back. We got microphone. Got a gooseneck mic at the front for the lecturer. We've got microphones dotted around the room. We've also got 2 other screens set up in the room, so people coming in remotely would be displayed on one of the screens, and then the other screen then is basically what the lecturer is presenting. They could see, it's like a confidence monitor for the lecturer. So, but we sort of cobbled that together with all sorts of kit. We use an OBS then to push out the stream of the video to the remote people, etc. So I'm just wondering whether something like this Google Meet hardware would complement or replace what we've currently set up, really.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at Google Meet hardware is, well, number one, you can manage it. Number two, it's a bit like if you go back to the sort of like the 1990s or 2000s, you used to go into a conference room and you would have a conference phone, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
This is the 21st century version of that, where it's just sort of like you've got your conference phone, but your conference phone is a video phone, and it uses all the Google Meet technologies.
Okay. Would that, if say multiple people wanted to join externally?
Yeah, they could. Yeah,
they could. Okay.
100%. I'll send you some information on it.
Yeah, quite interested to see what it actually looks like and compared to what we got, because we've set one up. We're learning from our mistakes. We want to set more up. So if there's an easier way to do it, then
I'll send you information on that. I mean, what I will say is that the Meet hardware and the licenses are quite expensive. I don't know off the top of my head what the exact price is, but they are quite expensive.
All right. Okay.
But worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is something that end users have been able to do for a long time, where they've got sort of like their own Google Calendar, so their private Google Calendar, and they've got their work Google Calendar. If you've got work Android profiles, you now are able as an admin to go into the admin console and allow users with Android work profiles to add personal calendars into their calendar. Again, this is only Education Standard and Education Plus, but it will allow you to have both your personal calendar and your work calendar in the same place. This one is basically just a legacy update. So integrated development environment, the IDE. This is for app scripts. It has been running sort of like on legacy with some of the updated app scripts, if you're using those. That is now going to be switched off. So the legacy will be switched off and the new updated IDE will be in place by the end of this year. Okay, and then Paul, who's in WEC Edinburgh, asked me to cover the 3 reminders from last month, mainly that you've got admin-enabled add-ons within Classroom, so that you have different tools that you can add into Classroom. You can, you do those via an allow list, the same way that you would if you have an allow list for installing Chrome Store apps and things like that. And it just gives you more functionality within the Google Classroom. This one, stronger protection for Google Workspace account actions. Okay, so this one is effectively if your account is compromised and someone tries to sort of like, and they get into your account, they try to, for example, change your name on the account or do something that is a bit suspicious, then it will not allow you to do that until you actually verify that it's you doing it. It requires 2-factor authentication, obviously, but even if you have 2-factor authentication turned on and you try and change your name, you can try it out yourself if you wish, on your Google account, it will prompt you to verify that it's you actually doing it. So it's just another enhanced level of security on your Google account. But like I say, 2-factor authentication, an absolute requirement, particularly for staff. Visibility of admin alerts. So this is basically, you can control, having been a multi-academy trust IT director, you can get too many alerts effectively. If you sort of like set up alerts so that you get alerted with absolutely everything that's going on, you'll suddenly have a very, very full inbox with nothing other than alerts, because it's sort of like someone's forgotten their, someone's tried to log in twice with with their password and has forgotten their password or things like that. So you can sort of like now control who can see those alerts and when they'll see them, and send the alerts to the right people, so that not one person, not say if you've got one super admin, which you should never have, you should always have the minimum of 2 super admins on your G Suite domain. Or sorry, Google Workspace, I'll get in trouble there. You should always have a minimum of 2. Don't do what certain places do and have sort of like 20 super admins. It's not required, which is why Google have a whole list of different admin roles that you can assign to certain people. An example of that would be when I was at the Multi-Academy Trust, I would give teachers help desk admin over the specific OU of their year group. So for example, the year 9 teachers would be given access to the year 9 OU, so that if they're in class and little Johnny forgets his password, they can log into the admin console. They'll only see the OU of the year 9 and they can change that password. So it helps if you have sort of like a summer holiday like that, loads of IT admins come back after the summer holidays and they have a line of people, queue of people at the door, because of all the pupils have all forgotten their password over the summer holiday. So it just gives staff the ability to quickly change the password and start the lesson. I'm sure you're all aware of that, though. And yeah, that's it. Nice and short today.
Yeah, we got an added complication with Google Directory Sync, to be honest with you. So it would be a different process for us in terms of the passwords. We wouldn't really use that.
Yeah,
but it's a nice tool.
It just depends how you've got it set up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with us, I think a lot of our schools, we have like the IT teachers and like the librarian because obviously there's usually computers in the school library who have password, but they can do only students, but any student, as it were, because obviously it could be any student in the library trying to access who can't log in and stuff. Basically, it's the people who work in the computer rooms rather than a specific year group who have password, and then they have like all students, and there's only a specific number of people who can do staff password resets for fairly obvious reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always recommend that if you've got a limited number of super admin accounts, is that every super admin prints off backup codes, and they are kept somewhere safe, like in a safe, in case something happens to them. So that the institution always has a backup, so that they can get in to the actual domain as a super admin. That's basically loss prevention, effectively, risk aversion. Keep those backup codes in a safe somewhere, and should the worst happen, if you've got two super admins and they're in a car together and they get hit by a bus, you've still got control of the domain.
Yeah, we have a couple of super admin accounts that are doing other things, and the details of those are in LastPass. So
yeah. Yeah, just print off the backup codes and do it that way. So, any questions?
Not about what you've said, but I've got some other questions if you're open for discussions.
Go for it, Stuart.
We met with Jamie and Steve last week. They came down to us for a day, and I raised this with them as well. It's round about cyber essentials plus certification. They weren't aware of the requirements for the new Evandine standard, which came into effect in January, and we just missed out on that. We used the old set for certification this year, which is great. Something that we're going to have to implement for next year, and I believe it's by April next year, is two-factor authentication for all staff, which is a given anyway. All students now have to be 2FA enabled as well by April. But the big one for us is the use of personal devices and the control over them. So for staff. So if, for instance, we have a member of staff who's got a personal laptop and they want to use that to access the Google services, we have to have sight of that laptop. So we have to bring that device into some sort of MDM solution, i.e. Google, if it does it. And based on the criteria that we set, i.e. the policy that we set for that, is if the device is compliant, i.e. within patch levels, then we can give them access to services. Okay, great. That in hindsight, that sounds great. But how do we ring fence our Google environment so we stop people accessing it from home devices and personal devices? How does that, and only for staff? How do we achieve that?
Well, the question would be: are staff happy to use their personal devices? Because I dealt with the reason I asked that, Stuart, is that I dealt with I think it was a college this week who they had enforced two-factor authentication for the staff, and they had made it so that they would need to put their personal mobile account into their school account. And a lot of the staff said, no, thank you. I'm not using my personal mobile device in school. And the only way around that, they were asking the question, do I use the Google prompt? Do I use the code, the SMS code? Again, that's all through your mobile. The only way around that is to get a Ubico key.
Yeah.
And that's what I told them, that if the school are enforcing two-factor, then they need to provide the Ubico keys.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't be up to the member of staff to pay for a Ubico key for school enforced policy.
No. The majority of staff will they'll use their personal device because they don't want to carry 2 devices around, etc. You do get, the small minority really who don't want to use their personal mobile or will require a ubiquitous key, which we are providing. But the question is, how do we restrict access to Google Workspace for staff who have not got a college device, or their device isn't managed by our Google MDM, or we're not in control of it then? Because Cyber Essentials are asking us, you need to give us a list of all devices that are accessing Google Workspace.
If they've got a,
but I want students to have free access.
you can lock it down on. You can lock it down with context-aware access. So you can lock it down to sort of like if they're within the IP range of the college, for example, then they can access it. If they're outside of the IP range of the college, then they can't. So it would stop them accessing the Google services. Say if they went into town and were sat in Starbucks connected to their open Wi-Fi, it would not allow them to access that.
It's kind of a geofencing sort of scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically geofencing.
Yeah. But what they're saying is they can use their personal device, but we have to be in sight of it.
Correct.
And be able to manage it.
Correct.
And I don't really know how to do that with Google.
Well, you can't.
Steve and Jamie were like, I don't even know if that's possible.
I don't think that is possible, because if they're connected to your Wi-Fi, if they're connected to your say they bring in their own personal laptop and they connect it to your Wi-Fi, then obviously they're on your network, aren't they?
We'd almost want a way that if, say, Joe Blogs member of staff comes along, tries to sign into Google, so our Google services with their personal device, is they're asked or they're forced to enroll their device into Google MDM. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, if they have not so much with laptops, but certainly with mobile phones, if they want to add, say, a college account to their personal mobile phone, then you can push out the Google device policy.
Okay.
Which will then give you an oversight into what device that is on. It'll tell you the latest OS update on that device, and it will also, worst case scenario, if a member staff leaves under a cloud, and they have their Google, their Google College account synced to that mobile phone, it will give you the ability as they walk to their car on their last day to go in and remove that account from the phone remotely.
Is that only with phones, or?
That's with phones only.
So no other devices.
It becomes a lot more difficult with Windows laptops and MacBooks and things like that. Certainly with mobile phones, you can certainly control that.
Okay. Because it's going to be still going to have an issue with that. That sounds interesting in terms of what you said with the mobile phones, but we're going to have people with other devices as well, so we're going to have to find a solution for those.
Yeah.
Okay, but there isn't anything at the moment.
No, and a good way, what I show a lot of schools when we look at their admin consoles, we'll go in and we'll look at the mobile device management, and we will look and see, and it will tell you how long ago that device actually synced to the Google service. So with some schools that I've come across, they'll scroll through the list and they'll see, that member staff shouldn't be on there. They left 2 years ago. And I said, well, that's why their phone hasn't synced in over 800 days because they left. I said, but because it's still on their phone, you may have suspended their account on their phone, but all the data that was already synced to the phone is still on the phone. So under GDPR, you need to be able to remove that data. And when you push out the Google device policy, a lot of staff will kind of like, I've got personal experience of this. Why do I need to install this app on my personal device? And I don't want you looking at my Facebook, my Twitter, my text messages, my personal email. So I'm not going to be looking at that.
Yeah.
I said, for data protection for school data. And then the ones that were really against it, I'd actually have to show them what I could see. I actually ran a school meet with all the staff, and I said, look, if you're concerned about this app, this as an admin is what I can see about your phone. It shows me your name, it shows me what the phone is, it shows me the OS, and it shows me when it first synced and when it last synced. That's all I can see.
Yeah. There's going to be resistance to it. You know, some people are going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. But, you know,
absolutely.
It's something we've got to implement. Okay.
Yep.
I did speak to Francisco, and he mentioned some sort of policy to push out, but he didn't go any deeper than that, really. Okay, so.
I'm going to, if there aren't any more questions, I am going to stop recording.
Okay.
Like as promised, Melissa, we're done by half.
Minutes spare.
I was just about to say I'm going to have to
Go.
go help my user now. Thank you for your time, and thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome, Melissa.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, is that something you'd maybe like to take up in a separate session, Stuart? Possibly, if James or Cisco or both can get on a call with you and just have a proper deep dive into that. Yeah,
definitely. It's something that we've got to find a solution to, and by time we next certify, really, which is early next year. Steve and Jamie last week were like, "My God, how is that? How can they enforce that? And it's not even enforceable." So they were going to go away. I think Steve was friendly with somebody at NCSE, and he was going to have a chat with them about it.
Yeah, he's. I'll drop him a line after the call.
Let's put it this way, Stuart. Even if you could manage someone's personal laptop, would they let you?
We've got to show that, a bit like what you said about the phones. We can see what we can have a list. We can give them a list of devices. We can see what OS is running on and what patch level, etc. I think that would be sufficient for Cyber Essentials, as long as we can prove that the devices connecting and using those services are within a particular, patch level. I think that would be sufficient. But yes, how would you get that for any device, really? That's the problem.
We can certainly do it with the mobiles, Stuart. You can certainly do it with mobile phones, and it'll work with iOS and it'll work with Android. With the iOS, if you're going to sort of like manage those through the device policy, you will need to create an Apple push certificate to push out, and that needs to be renewed every single year.
Okay.
The Android, you just set it up and it works because it's Google, obviously. But with iOS, the push certificates expires every year, and then you need to create a new one.
Okay.
It's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
I can walk you through how to do that. It's not an issue.
Okay. Yeah, it's just something that's going to give us some grief over the next couple of months, I think. We just need to try and find a solution for it.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you for your time.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Question for you, Phil.
Yep. I'm done.